If you're seeing this now, it means the 7 alchemical planets have started revealing themselves to you. But are you ready to cross these portals? Because this isn't a journey for everyone. Since ancient times, the great masters knew that true transmutation doesn't happen in the outside world. It happens within your consciousness. Alchemy was never about turning lead into gold. It was always about transforming you. But this transformation doesn't happen randomly. It follows a hidden code, a secret map traced by the 7 planets of Hermetic alchemy. 7 planets, 7 portals, 7 initiations. And here's what no one ever told you. Those who walk this path are never the same again. But beware, some people go their entire lives without realizing this calling. They feel like something is off, trapped in repetitive cycles, stuck in Saturn's lead. But they never wake up. And when they finally do, it's already too late. Now I ask you, have the 7 planets started revealing themselves to you? Or are you still stuck in the cycle of repetition? If you feel like this knowledge has found you for a reason, keep watching, but be warned. After this journey, there's no turning back. Saturn, the lead and the weight of the world. You feel the weight on your shoulders, but you don't know exactly where it comes from. The sensation of carrying an invisible burden, of being tied to something you can't see, but that has always been there. This weight has a name, Saturn, and if you've made it this far, it means the first portal of transmutation has already begun to open for you. In alchemy, Saturn rules lead, the densest, heaviest metal. And this isn't just a metaphor. This weight is in your body, your mind, your soul. It's the fears, the traumas, the chains that keep you stuck in the past. It's the beliefs that were imposed on you before you even knew you could question them. Everything you think you are, everything you were taught about yourself, your story, your identity, it's all pure lead. And the first stage of the great work isn't about finding gold, it's about destroying the lead. This is called nigredo, the first stage of spiritual transmutation. Here, everything begins to dissolve. The illusion of a constructed identity, the old patterns, the certainties that once seemed unshakable, it all crumbles. And this process isn't pretty. It's a necessary destruction. It's when life starts taking everything away. The crises hit, the masks fall, the walls collapse. The person you thought you were begins to disappear. And it hurts. Because no one teaches us how to lose. No one teaches us that destruction is part of creation, but the ancient alchemists knew. There is no transmutation without dissolution, but there's a secret that few understand. Nigredo is not a punishment, it's a liberation. Saturn doesn't destroy out of cruelty. He destroys to make space for something new. He shatters what is false so that only the truth remains. And this is where many give up, because Nigredo is terrifying. The mind resists, clinging to what is falling apart, trying to rebuild the old instead of accepting the new. But there is no turning back. The lead has already begun to dissolve. If you're going through this, understand, this is not your downfall. This is your rebirth. Because everything that dies in Nigredo was never really you. Jupiter, the stranger and the spiritual purification. But after the darkness, something happens. The weight starts to lift. What once felt overwhelming now fades like mist in the sunlight. You are no longer the same. Something inside you has changed. The rigidity of lead has been broken. What's left? This is where Jupiter comes in. If Saturn pushed you to the edge, Jupiter lifts you up. If before the journey was about dissolution, now it's about expansion. The albedo begins. This is the stage where the ashes of Nigredo give way to light. Everything that was destroyed must now be rebuilt, but this time with awareness. You can no longer be who you were before. The shadows that once haunted you no longer have power over you. But what comes next? What remains when the darkness fades? Jupiter has the answer. The ruler of tin, the bright, flexible metal, governs this phase. Tin reflects light, but not like the gold of the sun. It's an in-between state, a transition. It symbolizes adaptability and learning, because at this moment, the soul is not fully awakened yet. but it has already begun to see beyond the limitations that once held it back. Now you realize that reality was never fixed. What once seemed absolute now reveals itself to be fluid, malleable. What you believed to be true was only a limited version of reality. Now, expansion begins. Jupiter is wisdom, growth, vision. He teaches that the universe is far greater than your old eyes could ever see. He gives you access to the cosmic laws, the ones that have always governed your life, yet you never understood. Time, fate, energy, all of it starts to make sense. This is the moment when the mind becomes a mirror of the light. Mars, the iron and the fire of will. But knowing is not enough. Seeing the light doesn't mean you've already embodied it. Jupiter's expansion opened your vision, revealed hidden truths, and made you understand the game of reality. But now what? Now you need to act. If before, transformation was internal, now it must manifest. And this is where Mars comes in. The fire ignites, Citrinitas begins. Mars rules iron, a raw, resilient metal forged in the most intense heat. And that's no coincidence. Iron is the metal of warriors, of those who take fate into their own hands, of those who burn away doubt in the fire of determination. The knowledge gained in Jupiter cannot remain only in the mind. It must be applied. This is the stage of conscious action, of battling one's own weaknesses. You feel it inside you. The impulse, the urge to break free once and for all from everything that still holds you back. But wanting is not enough. Mars's fire demands discipline. The true war was never against the world. It was always internal. This is the stage where many souls fail, because Mars' energy is intense, uncontrollable for those who haven't learned to master it. Fire can forge or destroy. If channeled wisely, it transforms the alchemist into an indestructible being. If wasted on reckless impulses, it consumes him from within. That's why Citrinitas is not just about strength, but mastery of vital energy. The alchemist must learn to use his power with purpose. Here, he tests his courage, his resilience, his ability to stand firm even when everything around him tries to pull him off course. The sun, the gold and the flame of illumination. Since ancient times, the 7 alchemical planets have been considered vibrational portals, each representing a stage of inner transmutation. But there's something that might confuse those looking at this list for the first time. The sun is among them. But how can the sun be called a planet if it's a star? Here's the secret. To the ancient alchemists and astronomers, a planet didn't necessarily mean a rocky or gaseous body, as in modern classification. They called planets the celestial bodies that moved across the sky relative to the fixed stars. And since the sun and the moon had a direct influence on life and consciousness, they were included in this system. But the real reason the sun is here has nothing to do with astronomy. It represents the peak of transmutation. If Saturn symbolized the weight of illusions, Jupiter the expansion of consciousness, and Mars the strength of will, then the sun is the center of it all. It rules gold, the purest, most incorruptible metal, and brings with it the final stage of the great work. Rubedo, the spiritual realization. Here, the search ends. There is no more separation, no more doubt. What was once hidden now shines at full intensity. Let me share a short story that illustrates what we're learning. There was an old blacksmith who spent his days shaping metals in the heat of the forge. He was known for crafting the strongest swords, the sharpest blades, the most impenetrable helmets. Everyone who came to him asked for weapons, something to protect themselves, something to attack. But one day, a young alchemist arrived at his workshop with an unusual request. "Master Blacksmith, I want you to help me find the perfect gold." The old man laughed. "Gold isn't forged, boy. It is born pure." The alchemist insisted. "And what happens to impure metals?" The blacksmith took a piece of raw iron and threw it into the fire. The metal began to glow, turning an intense red. Impure iron fights the fire, resists, screams, but in the end, it is shaped. Then he took a gold nugget and tossed it into the same flames. The gold did not resist, did not scream, did not change. It simply shone. Gold doesn't need to be shaped because it is already perfect, swerved the blacksmith. But to find it, you must burn away all impurities. The young alchemist smiled, for he finally understood. The gold he was searching for wasn't outside. It was within. It had always been there. The sun represents this truth. Rubedo is not about becoming something new, but about remembering who you have always been. Venus, the copper, and the inner harmony. The gold has been revealed, but there's something few realize after enlightenment. If energy isn't balanced, it becomes unstable. Fire can consume, light can blind, strength can turn into rigidity. This is where Venus comes in. If the sun represents full consciousness, Venus represents the integration of that consciousness into life. Because true transmutation isn't just about awakening, it's about living awakened. Venus rules copper, a conductive metal. It doesn't resist the flow of energy, it allows it. Just as copper conducts electricity without obstruction, this stage teaches that the energy of consciousness must flow without resistance. Many reach this point and try to control their new state. They try to shape reality by force, but forget that balance cannot be imposed, it must be found. If before the journey was about crossing through shadows, now it's about finding harmony. The balance between mind and heart, reason and emotion, spirit and matter. The alchemist realizes there is no longer any separation between himself and the world. What is within is reflected outward. If there is inner order, there is outer order. If there is inner chaos, reality will respond with the same chaos. This is the moment when the essence of creation is understood. True beauty isn't in appearance, but in the vibration it carries. Love isn't a fleeting emotion, but a cosmic force that unites all things. What is harmonized within manifests externally. Venus teaches that the true art of life isn't in struggle, it's in the dance. When energy flows without resistance, reality naturally reorganizes itself. When the heart and mind are aligned, the universe responds. Mercury, the mind and the bridge between worlds. Harmony has been achieved. The alchemist now understands that reality is a reflection of his inner state, that energy must flow without resistance, and that true creation comes from balance. But there is one final stage that must be understood: the mastery of the mind and the connection between worlds. This is where Mercury comes in. If Venus brought harmony, Mercury teaches fluidity. He is the living metal, mutable, dynamic, always in motion. No other metal behaves like him. No other metal adapts like him, and that is his greatest lesson. The alchemist realizes that reality is not fixed. Nothing is solid. Everything is in constant transformation. What once seemed unchangeable now reveals itself as malleable, shaped by the awakened mind. The separation between spirit and matter begins to fade. There are no more boundaries. This is the moment he understands the true secret of transmutation. The bridge between worlds is consciousness itself. Those who reach this point don't just understand the mysteries, they live them. Now, wisdom is no longer just theory. It becomes a daily practice. Knowledge is no longer just a concept. It becomes action. The alchemist learns that awakening alone is not enough. It must be integrated. Mercury is the messenger of the gods, the intermediary between realms. He symbolizes the one who walks between realities without losing himself in them. He teaches that there is not just one world, but many, interwoven through the vibration of the mind. And this is the stage of the master. The master is not the one who isolates himself in an unreachable state of enlightenment. He is the one who walks through the world with full awareness, who lives between the sacred and the mundane without being lost in either. He crosses between realms but remains whole. Here, the alchemist discovers that his journey was never just about himself. He now becomes a transmitter of the wisdom he has received. True knowledge is not hoarded. It is shared. The one who awakens must become the bridge for others to awaken as well. And so, the great work is completed. But at the same time, it never ends. Because now, the alchemist understands that transmutation is not a destination. It is an eternal cycle. The moon, the silver, and the reflection of consciousness. the master walks between worlds. He has learned that reality is fluid, that the mind is the bridge, and that consciousness shapes everything that exists. But there is one last secret that must be revealed, a mystery that has always been there, hidden in the shadows, waiting to be understood. And this is where the moon comes in. If Mercury is the messenger between worlds, the moon is the mirror where those worlds reflect. She rules silver, the metal that does not generate its own light but reflects the light of the sun. Like silver, the moon does not shine by itself. It captures light and returns it. And this is her deepest teaching. Everything we see in the external world is merely a reflection of our internal state. The alchemist realizes that the reality he experiences is not absolute, but a mirror of his own vibration. His emotions, thoughts, unconscious patterns, everything that exists within him is projected outward. What he fears, he encounters. What he believes, he manifests. What he rejects returns to him. The moon teaches that duality is not a mistake, it is an illusion. The conscious and the unconscious, the visible and the invisible, the external and the internal, everything is connected. What is within shapes what is without. But there is one detail that few notice. The moon also rules the tides, the cycles, the hidden rhythms of existence. She influences the waters of the world just as she influences the waters within us, and in Hermetic tradition, water has always symbolized the subconscious. The alchemist discovers that his mind is not just a space of rational thought, it is a deep ocean full of forgotten memories, hidden symbols, and subtle messages. Mastering lunar energy requires more than knowledge. It requires perception. The alchemist must learn to read the signs, interpret the reflections, and understand what his own reality is trying to show him. Because the world is not just a physical space, it is a field of symbols waiting to be deciphered. And now he understands. Nothing is random. Everything is a reflection. The final question arises. What do you see when you look at the world? Because the answer is not out there. It is within you. The alchemist has crossed all the portals. Each planet revealed a piece of the secret. Each stage burned away an illusion. Each transmutation stripped away a part of what he once believed himself to be. Now, standing before the final veil, he sees the truth. The philosopher's stone was never an object. It was never a hidden secret. It was never something to be found, because it was never outside. It was always him. From the very beginning, the search was an illusion. He never needed to turn lead into gold, because the gold had always been within him. The great work was never about creating something new, but about removing everything that was never real. And this is the secret that few are ready to hear. The world has taught you that you need something to be complete, that enlightenment is a distant place, that wisdom is locked away in ancient books, that truth is a secret known only to a few. But now the alchemist sees. He looks at his own hands and understands. Spirit and matter were never separate. Consciousness has always shaped reality. What he once believed impossible is now obvious. Transmutation is not just of metal, it is of the soul, of perception, like of the way one interacts with the world. And so, a cycle closes. But then, something unexpected happens. He feels a calling. Something whispers within him. It is not a voice. It is not words. It is a deep knowing. The journey does not end, because the great work is not a destination. It's an eternal process. Every transmutation leads to a new level. Every illumination reveals a new mystery. The alchemist realizes that the more he knows, the more he sees the infinite before him. Now, he no longer needs to seek. He simply is. And in this moment, everything falls into place. He understands that the true masters were never the ones who hid away in temples or locked secrets inside forgotten manuscripts. The true masters are the ones who walk among us, living, breathing, existing, awake. They don't need to convince anyone. They don't need to impose truths. Their very presence is the teaching. Because those who walk this path become beacons in the darkness, not because they try to save others, but simply because they shine. And those who are ready will see the light and feel the calling. And now, do you feel it? The transformation has already begun. The 7 planets have revealed themselves. The decision is now yours. Are you ready for the 7 planets? Before you go, I've prepared a special video for you, something that will take everything we've discussed here even deeper and show you how to apply these teachings on your journey of transmutation. And there's more. In the first pinned comment, I've left 2 incredible books on alchemy, books that were essential on my journey and can help you dive even deeper into this knowledge. If you'd like to support the channel and help me keep bringing content like this, you can do it in 2 ways. Clicking the Super Thanks button, which not only highlights your comment, but also strengthens this project, or by joining the exclusive access link I've pinned in the first comment. Your support makes all the difference and allows me to continue bringing the mysteries of alchemy and transmutation to those who are ready to cross these portals. Thank you so much for staying until the end. See you in the next video,